It is time to read what happened with items. Holy sh... Hey, what's up, everybody? So Chris Wilson just dropped the big bomb of his explanation for what happened on why 319 has been such a mess, and it's a big doozy. The first 12 minutes of this video are me reading through it, basically just verbatim. If you want to just like listen to me read it through, there really isn't any much commentary there. But if you want to go straight to the conclusion and my thoughts, just skip to 1240. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, see y'all tomorrow. Bye. They were doing a serious postmortem. They weren't half-assing it. What happened with items? Lake of Kalandra saw a number of balance changes that were not properly communicated before release. After a week of addressing feedback with hotfixes, we have written this post to explain what our intention was, what went wrong, how we have fixed it, and to reassure you about the direction we intend to go in the future. There's a bit of backstory to explain. I want to start by describing 3 philosophies that have been guiding our decisions recently. Philosophy 1. Reward mechanisms should scale properly with item quant and rarity bonuses. For the last few years, we have been using what we internally call item templates to control what drops from league content. This is where a monster, often with a reward symbol, drops a specific type of item when it is killed. The Path of Exile is a game about opting into more difficulty in exchange for more rewards. You can roll your maps to be harder or add sextants to them. You can play with additional party members. You can trigger additional stacking league content like Delirium. All of these things make the game harder in exchange for more and better rewards. The way we achieve more and better is through item quantity and item rarity bonuses. Item quantity means you directly find more stuff, and item rarity means that it has a higher chance of upgrading to magic, rare, and unique. Item templates ignored quant and rarity bonuses. A template of drop 4 rare jewels just did that, regardless of adding any quant or rarity. From the 319 expansion onwards, we are trying to make sure that reward systems scale with player item quantity and rarity bonuses. That's why the reward conversion system that higher tier arch nemesis monsters have is so powerful. Any bonuses you have from additional difficulty will affect the rewards that rare monster drops. Additional item quant causes them to drop more items that are converted. And additional item rarity causes those items to upgrade, which also affects the converted one. For example, if you upgrade a rare to unique item, then it's converted to a currency item, and it's then converted to a currency item, it'll drop as a divine, exalted, or orb of annulment.
Let's go!
Indeed. Going forward, we are trying to make sure that as much as possible, reward systems scale with the reward bonuses you get for playing difficult content. Sounds good to me. Philosophy 2, players should fight fewer rare monsters at once, but they should be more challenging and rewarding. In fights with a lot of rare monsters on screen, you can't follow what modifiers they have, what skills they're using, and sometimes not even what type of monster they are. There's too much to pay attention to. With too much noise and screen pollution, you cannot use appropriate combat tactics. And instead, you have to just stutter step or be so powerful that it's inconsequential. Fewer, more difficult rare monsters help you pay attention to what's happening. Assess it and act accordingly. It gives you an opportunity to employ counterplay and for your play skill to actually matter, rather than relying on pure character power. It is also a lot cleaner and far better for performance. Rewards should be set appropriately for the increased difficulty. Philosophy 3. There shouldn't be a large gap between the difficulty and rewards of league content and base game content. Monsters added in leagues are much more difficult to kill and drop better items than regular ones. When those leagues become core, these properties carry across, creating 2 tiers of content, with one far more rewarding than the other. We feel it's good for league content to be harder and therefore more rewarding, but the difference should be approximately twice as rewarding. If the gap were any larger, then it would be less efficient to kill regular monsters, and a player should spend all their time focusing on repeating a small subset of content. With those philosophies established, let's have a look at some of the changes we made in 319 and examine what went wrong. Rare monster normalization. A lot of league content was spawning way too many rare monsters compared to the rest of the game. In line with Philosophy 2 and general player concerns about being overwhelmed by too many hard arch nemesis monsters, we reviewed most league content with a goal of making the rate of encountering rare monsters consistent. There are 3 changes that needed to happen. The addition of interesting rewards to some arch nemesis mods that scale with both item rarity and quantity, Philosophy 1, and yield very valuable outcomes if combined in the right combinations to create moments of excitement as valuable rewards drop. An adjustment to the average number of Arch Nemesis modifiers on rare monsters to increase the difficulty, justify those higher rewards, and create more random interesting encounters that add variance to gameplay. 3. A rebalance of Arch Nemesis modifiers to account for the fact that rare monsters now have multiple modifiers more frequently. This step was not performed until release feedback came in. It was not deemed necessary at the time and required extensive community feedback before we did it. This was a mistake, and we should not have been so stubborn about it. Correct. So the interesting thing here, right? Well, we'll get to it, but with just this on release, not only were the monsters too hard, but they were also just not rewarding also, right? Monster item rarity and quantity normalization. And there's probably going to be in here. As described above, various valuable Arch Nemesis modifiers convert drops in a way that directly benefits from item rarity and quantity bonuses. When we were balancing and testing this, we wondered why certain League monsters were dropping significantly more than regular monsters. Turned out this was due to item rarity or quantity bonuses that were historically applied to League monsters. When combined with the new drop conversion system, these bonuses stacked exponentially and caused far too many rewards. In line with philosophy 3, which is there shouldn't be a large gap between League content and regular content, we rebalanced League monsters so that they were twice as rewarding as regular monsters and didn't have these existing bonuses. To be clear, the bonuses were inconsistent and arbitrary. For example, Yellow Beasts dropped more items than Red Beasts. Incursion monsters didn't have any increased quantity, just increased rarity, but Harvest monsters had both. This change was not mentioned in the patch notes. Now we get to Beyond. This was beyond broken for map juicing, sometimes spawning over 200 unique monsters in a map. The amount of items that came from Beyond was just ridiculous. It was not okay for 15,000 unique items to drop in the same map. The new version is more reasonable, allowing up to one unique Beyond boss per map, which is honestly a gigantic nerf, but it was intentional, and we mentioned it in the live stream. It was reworked with more details in the patch notes. While we took away the extreme juice, we added a dedicated reward for Beyond, tainted currency items. Okay, that is what they did. That was, what they were planning going in. What went wrong? We didn't patch note the item rarity and quantity rebalance. This was an oversight due to human error, but that's why I proofread the patch notes. Unfortunately, due to the next point, this wasn't caught during my proofread. I didn't actually understand the impact of the change. It was mentioned to me in passing that we were removing the League Monster bonuses, and I just didn't ask any more questions. I was busy, distracted, and I should have sought more information. Had I understood the consequences, we likely would have still gone ahead with the change, but hopefully with better communication and maybe some pre rather than post-release counterbalance somewhere else. This is a massive internal communication fuck-up, and I take full responsibility for it. There was not sufficient time to play test the change properly for feeling. It is unacceptable that I allowed a change like that to make it into the patch without a big chunk of time allocated to make sure the game still feels great. I also overstated the impact of the change when communicating about it in this post, which is the what we're working on post, the one that people really hated. I said we removed a massive historic bonus, and this caused the community to think the impact was larger than it was. The reason why I used the word massive was that the numbers sound big when viewed in isolation, but are less impactful when viewed in context. Oh, we get real numbers. For example, the rarity bonus on a Red Beast was 750%. This sounds big, but a 4-mod Arch Nemesis rare has a 41,000% bonus. Players have been saying we reduced drops by 90%, but in reality, that type of difference could only be true in the most extreme situations involving Beyond, Deli, and Incursion stacked with Party Quant, Rarity, Sextants, and Scarabs, and a dedicated MF color. Peak efficiency of every juice mechanism. Every other player is unaffected on average. For example, when playing Breach, the reduction in currency items found is around 7% when compared 319 to 318. In 100% Delirium maps, the difference hits 17%. In Incursion, you'll find 25%. The next mistake we made was related to item culling. I'm pretty sure I spoke about this on a podcast at some stage, but a while ago we introduced a system that culls some percentage of irrelevant, normal, and magic items before the items drop. These are items that would almost certainly be filtered out by almost any item filter and never picked up. The intention is to reduce clutter substantially without actually affecting items a player would pick up. We have been gradually raising this culling value over time, and we try to find a sweet spot. To be clear, the system doesn't affect things like rare items, currency, or drip maps. A few weeks before Lake of Kalandra launched, we raised this rate again. This means if you're counting the raw number of irrelevant equipment items on the ground, some of this reduction is due to the harmless culling. In addition, Lake of Kalandra is an out-of-area league. Its rewards entirely come from the lake itself rather than from your maps. This is in stark contrast to Sentinel, our last league, which not only dropped the rewards in your maps, but was honestly tuned higher than average in terms of league rewards. True. Players went from receiving masses of league rewards as they clear maps to receiving absolutely nothing from the league until they travel to the lake. This is unfortunate timing and exacerbated the perception of drop reduction. The lake itself was also relatively unrewarding on release, and this has been massively increased since then. The remaining things that went wrong pertain to post-release communication. It took us several days to hotfix many of the changes, and while we have posted about it each day, this full explanation took almost a week. I wish we could have done it faster, but we have tried to prioritize working as quickly as we can. As the confusion about our motivations has raised a lot of concern, I should have found a way to prioritize writing this post. There's a lot to unpack. I believe that the intention was good, but there were significant deficiencies in testing and communication. I take personal responsibility because it happened on my watch. I am the game director for Path of Exile 1, and it is unacceptable that I can miss a change that has consequences that the League Monster 1 did. Changes like this need to be very, very carefully tested, have their consequences understood, and be communicated. I have let you down, and I will not allow it to happen again. I want to emphasize that our QA team are not to blame. They work very hard and have a lot of limitations that are outside of their control. For the next upcoming release, I'm specifically trying to integrate them more into development so we get their feedback earlier. For players who are juicing their content to extreme levels with dedicated MF colors and stacked league mechanics, they no longer have Beyond to push things over the edge. But they still find ridiculous amounts of stuff. I've seen parties in this league get multiple mirrors per day or find over 50 divine orbs from a single monster. For regular players who are just elking their maps and adding difficulty where they feel they can handle it, we think the drops are in a pretty good place after this week's changes. They should not have been like this, and I'm deeply sorry that they were not. Our plan is not to gut the rewards out from Path of Exile. We play the game too and enjoy finding heaps of items. Could an alternate version of the game with extreme item scarcity also be a fun experiment, aka hard mode, is an entirely separate thing, and its changes have not been folded into regular Path of Exile. Please keep the feedback coming. We are reading, discussing, and continuing to make changes. I'm very sorry for the rough start, but I hope you continue to enjoy the Lake of Kalandra, Atlas Memories, and our new content released in this expansion. I think this just confirms both what myself and Neversink have said. The philosophies are sound, right? This is going to be the unique take. Lake of Kalandra itself, ignore it. There's some internal bureaucracy. There's, buck stops directly at Chris. Who knows how much it actually is? He is taking all of the blame here. Entirely possible it's not just him, but he's doing his correct job there, in this post by saying it's all on me, blame me, blame me. He's taking the blame and shielding his team, which is what he should be doing. I would just ignore this, right? So what I would do is I think there might be 1 or 2 more patches this league. Decide based on where the game is in about a week, whether you care about Lake of Kalandra. If you are okay with this and you think it's fun and it feels good, keeping my entire opinion out of this. I'm just trying to give a top level, as objective as I can. Try to divorce yourself emotionally from it. I know League Start, it was rough, man. It was bad. Take a step back. Maybe just don't play the game tomorrow. I'm going to be playing Diablo 3. I'm going to be playing Cult of the Lamb. We're going to chill. We're going to take a breather from the league. 1 week anniversary. Take a breather. We'll think about it again on Saturday. Separate yourself a little bit from that intensity of the League Start. Evaluate if you think where the game is right now with maybe a couple small patches will be fun for you. If it is, great, play it. If it isn't, walk away for at least a league, right? The most telling and interesting and important thing that you should really reflect on, especially to have a healthy, very healthy relationship with this game and going into the future, is really sit down and read through these philosophies. Do these philosophies align with what you want out of Path of Exile? If the answer is yes, then great. This is the direction that they want to push the game. And they will continue to patch and continue to make it better and continue to fix it. And there will be speed bumps. There will be severe speed bumps. That is just the reality of working on an incredibly complex system, and they're a company that scaled from 2 dudes in a garage to a larger company. And I can tell you from experience that scaling is very difficult, and there are, there can be issues and stuff like this can happen. To really reflect, like, would you enjoy the game being more about, rare monsters being like the main thing, with league content being like, they clearly wanted to put out a league that was not going to be as rewarding as Sentinel. And they really wanted to normalize the loot and the drops, and very rare monster and map boss focused for the loot, trying to experiment around with Arch Nemesis and see what it feels like. I think that's just where I would keep it. I would end it, right? I don't think there's actually anything particularly constructive or healthy with me even chiming in on my opinion of the company's internal struggles and the bureaucracy and their, and I'm not using bureaucracy in like in a disparaging way. That's just like inherently a corporation of that size will have, bureaucratic layers. Try to divorce yourself from that entirely, to the point where, like, I know he's like apologizing for this and going into detail, but this doesn't matter for us, right? Really, the best thing is understand that some patches are going to fuck up, and, tell them when they fuck up. But the real thing here is reflect on the philosophy and the direction of the game. Try to divorce yourself emotionally from it. Really reflect on if the game is going a direction that you enjoy. And if it is, that's awesome. And if it isn't, take some breathers, walk away, and play Diablo 3 with me tomorrow, and we'll find the stuff that has fun. I'm obviously still going to play and have fun with it. And I think the game is in a good enough place for me, 319, I'm going to play it. But I don't remotely blame anyone for, stepping away and, seeing how it shakes out and seeing, maybe 320 will be more to your tasting. And maybe, maybe when these philosophies get baked a little bit more. And I think that's just a healthy way to play the game. I've been saying this for the past week. I think it's a process issue. I think something happened. There was miscommunication internally, which led to internal mistakes, which then cascaded into poor communication externally. And we got the cluster that we got in the past few days. But we do have to remember, regardless, it is just a video game. I think that is just the healthiest way to have a relationship with a video game. Your days are very limited. They're very, very limited days. And I would rather gravitate to positivity than bask in negativity and, something that's not making me happy. And that's where I would leave that. What do you do when you can't find a game, but you got nothing else to do? Read a book, work out, load up the hub, unzip, have a good time, whatever makes you happy.